guys, welcome to the 4th episode of the $3,000 Mustang project on Rebuild It. Hope every single one of you guys is having a fantastic day and enjoy the video. When we last left our hero, Mark was trying to straighten out and fix the ABS module bracket.
Okay, so I got the bracket off of the ABS system and got it over on the bench. I'm going to straighten it. And the only thing I can figure out how to do to try to get this thing straight is I'm going to weld the stud right here and use a slide hammer to try to pull it out. So we'll see how that works. Well, as you guys can see, I've been doing some test fitting on the car. I got the new radiator support in, and so what I've done is I've just clamped it in there to make sure everything is going to fit right. Got a little vice grip there holding it in to where I drilled out the spot welds, and then I went ahead and bolted on this fender over here just to, the front radiator support has got a hole right here that fender hooks to and ties it in with the rest of the support back here on the other side of my weld, where my weld's going to be. And so I wanted to make sure that this hole matched, perfectly when it was lined up, when it was welded. So I've got that matches perfectly now. The lines are good. I've got a problem down here on where the fender is sticking out just a little bit from the door, which I've got to tweak it a little bit to make it work. So I'm going to go ahead and put the other fender on the other side and put the hood on and check all the gaps and get the gaps absolutely perfect before we do any welding at all. I'm just going to clamp everything and mark everything where it's going to go, and then when I put it back on and weld it for good, all the gaps will be exactly right. Another thing that I wanted to tell you guys is that if you ever do take off upper radiator support, you got to unhook all these wires from where your headlights are grounded. And I thought that these wires were just headlight grounds. These grounds that go up in there, I don't know if you can see it. There's two bolts up in there, and that's where these two rings go to be grounded. Well, I had to unhook all that when I tore all that apart. Same way over here, 3 rings. And your car will not start unless those rings are grounded. So I ran battery cables jumper cables from those rings and those rings, both of them all the way over here to the negative ground side of the battery. And after a long time trying to figure out why this thing was not turning over, as soon as I did that, boom, it starts right up. And here in just a minute I might go ahead and show you what it looks like on the dash when it starts up. We've got several different warning lights on. So we've got a brake light on, which the parking brake is off, and we've got ABS light, and the door is open, so that should go off. And we've got not sure what that is.
The word my father is trying to come up with is traction control.
With the power steering service advantage tech and the power steering assist fault lights on. So all of those, we'll have to try to figure out one by one what the problem is with all that. Now the ABS, if you guys remember, was hit in that front and pushed forward, so I don't know if that set off some kind of code that we need to, when we get our scanner in, we'll have to reset. If you guys know anything about much of that, then leave me some comments and maybe we can figure it out. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and bolt some more of these panels on this other fender, and then the hood. Again, unhook this ground cables, and then I'll put that in the time lapse and speed it up, and we'll see how all the gaps look. Well, I got the hood on to work on the gaps and the other fender, as you can see in the time lapse. And don't try to be a hero like me and put the hood on by yourself. Get some help. I about dropped it on my head 4 or 5 times, and also put the prop rod on first before you try putting the hood on. Just a little for your information. So anyway, the gaps to me look pretty doggone good. You can really see it with the green and black, and that they might need a little bit of tweaking, but I mean it's pretty close. So I think what I'll do next is I'm still waiting on the bumper to come in, and I don't want to do any welding or anything until I see what the gaps are like on the bumper. So I'm really kind of stuck, except for I don't want to take all that upper radiator support back off and do my scuffing and get ready for paint until I get all that in. So the bumper should be here next week. When it showed up, I said, that is surely not the bumper. If it is, it has been ran over and smashed. It turns out that is the way they ship these bumper covers. So according to the instructions, you cut that cover off, unfold it, put it in a heated room or in the sun, and it's supposed to automatically pop back and take its own shape back. So I'm going to set up a time lapse and then we'll see if that's really the case and how long it takes. And I'm going to be using a heater while I do this because it's Missouri and it's still cold even in the house. It's not super warm, so I'd say it needs to be 80 or something like that around it. So I'm gonna push a heater over there and try to heat it up quicker, and then maybe use a hair dryer if I have to. Okay, so that actually worked way better than what I thought it would. It spread out pretty nice, and there's still some spots in here on both sides that need to relax a little bit. Anxious to put it on the car and look at our gaps. Okay, the goal of tonight is to get this bumper mocked up on the car so that we can check gaps. I've been putting it off because I've been waiting on all these parts to come in. I finally have them. I think everything I need. So what we have is the bumper, of course, where you saw expanded, and we've got the top. That's what hooks the top of the bumper to the upper radiator support. That's kind of like the grill surround. There's the foam bumper, and that's the splash guard that goes underneath. I'm not going to worry about putting the splash guard on or that grill insert, but we need that top piece and the bumper, and then those side little triangular pieces that hook to the front of the fender that mount right there. So we'll get all that. We'll do some little cleanup first here. We've got to take some of these brackets back off and get that wiring harness out of the way, get it down below, and so we can get that top piece put on, and then we'll see how everything lines up. If you could see in the time lapse or not, but I was having a hard time getting the bumper to fit with a good enough gap up at the top. Sides are going to be okay once I get them snapped in. but I was having a really big gap in here, like 3/4 of an inch or an inch. And so what I did was loosen up these front nuts, there's front bolts on the fenders, and tap the upper radiator support in a little bit farther, and it brings all that in. And I think it's close enough now where I can make it work once I get everything welded. But let me look here. So there's the gap now, and it's sitting up. You know, there's no latch on there yet, but I think once I get it to go down into the latch. I need to look at some pictures of some other Mustangs and see how much gap there is on.
And always remember, kids, a gap mentioned 13 times today is a gap you won't have to fix 26 times tomorrow.
Ones that come out of the showroom floor, but I still think that's a little bit big, but I think I can work with it. So I'll look, see what's going on.
Next week on Rebuild It, Mark unscrews a shift knob. Also, make sure to check us out on Instagram, where we post behind-the-scenes photos, sneak peeks, giveaways, and information for future videos. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.